why do we do all this? I mean, it is because we want better scientists and we want to make life, I would say, more fun or interesting for the scientists. So what does all this mean for the researcher? So I think that we have to train our new generation of researchers with the following new facts of life. So publications, immediate open access. It is, first of all, it will allow you to have your results quicker, and it will be cheaper. By the way, it has been demonstrated many times that open access articles get quoted 2 to 3 times more than articles behind paywalls, which means that as a scientist, I have 2 to 3 times more impact, so to speak, if you follow the logic of the citations. So it is an argument we should not forget. I mean, the average open access book in downloads is a factor up to 10 more downloaded than what you sell. And the price is cheaper to publish an open access book. Now, things can change, of course, but it is undeniable that if you go as a scientist for open access and you leave aside the problems with the impact factor, your science, your result, your impact is bigger. And that, I think, is a very important argument. We also need to make sure that our researchers know that data is mandatory and that they should make data management plans. I must say, I find it a little bit strange that sometimes we get criticized on it, but then I say, well, okay, whatever research project you do, you produce data because everything is digital, so you must have a plan. Now, if we can standardize those plans, or you just throw your data in the cloud, no, of course you have a plan. Of course, if you're an astrophysicist or you are a researcher in theology, I'm sure that the data sets vary a bit. But that's not the point. The point is that most likely the majority of all science will be extremely data-driven, so you need plans anyway. So the only thing we try to do via FAIR is to streamline those plans and to make it the standard. DMP is required. I'm absolutely convinced that we will go to a system in the next, say 12 to 24 months, that our university associations will come up with a new way to measure all these things, to make it visible, to translate it into indicators, to reward it later on. Most likely, if you go back to the first slide, we see this kind of, now talking, let's say, 5 to 10 years ahead, that all research flows in most disciplines become massively online accessible. Not free, open, by the way, is not free, depends on the conditions, and then, of course, that all science will be data-driven. So data science literacy should, in my view, become a mandatory course, at least at master's or at least at doctoral level. It will also open, by the way, new career paths, which we haven't had for the moment. It will also allow open science faster and better publication. We talked about that. Richer publication opportunities. The whole research value chain is actually to be published or is already being published. And as a result of that, you can have a much more broader publication portfolio, which again puts the discussion on the impact factor of the single article in a much different perspective. It follows from all that we will have a much richer measurement of scientific activity. We might have different career paths. I think that already the National Science Foundation asks for what are your 5 most important products, not articles, 5 most important products for the tender for the topic of the tender for which you are postulating. Now that product can be an article, but it can also be an algorithm, it can be a piece of software, it can be a database. Now maybe we go to, not maybe, I think we will go to a situation where some of the researchers will not publish articles, but only datasets or only algorithms or only visualization software. Why not? If you read the history of statistics, it was also considered as a quite exotic and ridiculous exercise in the 20s, 30s when it started. And nowadays, statistics is the most cited part of some of the most cited articles in the world. So my guess is, based on that historical analogy, that we will see the same for data science. More research potential in the disciplines. It is in particular for social sciences, data science offers an enormous opportunity because it allows you to do things which were never possible before in social sciences, namely having a vast empirical basis to do your analysis. And most of the social science, you're stuck by all the documents, or stuck by the fact that you can only do participatory observation for so many people, or via post hoc enquêtes, you can try to find out what people thought a week ago. Now, because of everything becoming a data point, you can actually track social life in real time in a certain sense. In Stanford, they have created a Center for Social Physics. And the idea is there is so much data available about the social reality that it becomes as empirically solid and robust to study it as physics. A bit of an exaggeration, but you see the trend, and we can expand on that later on. And then, well, more transparency and hence less ethical issues. I would say it is self-evident. If the system is open, well, then you simply have less problems. Then I say to researchers, you know what? All these tools to do all that, they are freely available. So this is people in Leiden, the Library of Leiden. They have a permanent update of what are all the tools for that you can use for publishing, for using licenses, for sharing preprints. You see all these tools there, and most of it is freely available. So it is not true that it is costly. It's not true that you are dependent from true companies. You can. Elsevier offers most of this also, but there is a huge potential and a huge offer beside the established players if you would want to do so.